This is a Fleet Success Show, dedicated to helping you and your fleet succeed using the experience of fleet professionals and Hall of Fame fleet legends. The show that explores how the pillars of stakeholder satisfaction, intentional culture, resource efficiency, and risk management all combine to lead your fleet to success. We're glad you're here. Now, let's get into the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Fleet Success Show. I am Marc Canton, your host. Josh is out this week. But I'm super excited to be joined by my good friend and colleague, Bill Schankel. Bill, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to get on this podcast. I listen to it a lot, so excited to be here.
I'm honored to hear that. We're very appreciative that you could join. You're actually really being very generous with your time. You're actually on the road right now, right? You just got to your hotel, poor guy. Tell us about where you are and what you're doing.
Sure. I'm actually in Daytona Beach. I'm at the FLAGFA conference, their spring conference this year. We do quite a bit with FLAGFA. It's a great organization in Florida for Florida government fleet managers and fleet professionals. We did a pre-con session today with them on one of our certificate programs. So we had some people taking our certificate program today, and then tomorrow their conference starts next 2 days. So looking forward to some great learning over the next couple of days.
Awesome. So, Bill, what's your official title? You're with NAFA. You run NAFA. Is it CEO? You're the CEO of NAFA,
yeah,
correct?
I'm the CEO of NAFA. Yeah, so I've been
awesome.
CEO of NAFA since May of 2020.
Okay.
So actually joined NAFA in 2017. So prior to that, I was a COO, and then moved into the CEO role in 2020, and been the CEO since.
So tell us, go back a little bit further in time. Give us the journey here in fleet and whatnot, and kind of how you landed there. First, how did you get into fleet, and then kind of walk us to how you got involved with NAFA.
My path comes from I come from more of the association side of things. So my expertise is associations, and landed at NAFA, and then obviously started to learn the fleet industry at that time in 2017, and really an opportunity to learn the industry and learn the people, which it's been fantastic. I really enjoy the fleet industry because of the people. I mean, it's a great opportunity, and but my expertise really came from running associations, very similar to in other industries. So I was in a cable telecommunications industry. I was in some scientific professional societies and associations over the years. Some construction-related trades. So very interesting, because a lot of the associations all deal with the same challenges, and you get to hear, what brings the people in those industries together, what's their passion, what are their challenges, and really, my expertise is kind of how do you put all that together and make sure you can add value from an association side, and then really this, as you get into them, you really get to learn the industry and the unique challenges, the opportunities that each industry has, and it's kind of getting a deep dive and lessons from our members is really how you learn the industry, and that's what I've done over the last now 8 years. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. So we're gonna get into some of those challenges in a little bit here, I think, but first, kind of walk us through what you said you joined in 2017. Obviously, you've had various initiatives or maybe it's goals or projects, however you want to call them. Tell us a little bit, kind of catch us up. What are some of the areas of focus that in your leadership role with NAFA you've been working on trying to help us? Because, and I think our listeners know this, but just to kind of set the table here, NAFA is the most important, if we're being honest, the most influential fleet management organization, for fleet professionals really in the country, North America, perhaps in the world, and so it's truly central, right? So kind of as the industry goes, NAFA goes, and vice versa. As NAFA goes, the industry goes, very much so, I think. So I'm super passionate about this. I'm super passionate about some of the work I've been watching you do from a distance. So that's why one of the reasons I'm so excited to kind of have you on and just kind of hear it from you directly. So let's go back in time. You joined in 2017. Catch us up to some of the various, kind of initiatives and important things that you guys have focused on, maybe through the last year kind of a thing.
Sure, absolutely. So, I mean, a few of the big things, obviously, we've done a lot. So right now we have over 3,200 members throughout North America, which is one of the highest points NAFA's ever been at. So we're very excited about that. The membership growth has been fantastic, and we have a great team of staff back at the office that are doing, putting together the programs that do this. But we attribute a lot of that to some of the things we've done over the last year and a half or so. So we made a concerted effort to really grow what we're calling our NAFA regions and local networking groups, to get fleet professionals together on a local level. During the pandemic and the change, everybody was, in that virtual frame of mind, and some of the, at the time, chapters kind of fell off. People weren't getting together. So we revamped our chapter structure to put it into a local networking group and regions. So we have 8 regions, which RTA is one of the sponsors of that. So we appreciate your support of that program. It's been fantastic. We had over almost 100 local networking group in-person sessions last year. This year we're on pace to do more than that throughout North America. So one of the great things we've done is just bring fleet professionals back together to talk and learn from each other, be there side by side, and something as basic as getting together at a baseball game to getting together for a full day of learning and full sessions. So that's been very exciting. So, first and foremost, I think that was one of my initiatives. One of the keys was to make sure we get people back together, back talking in their local area, in their region, and then on a national level to some degree.
Obviously, for most of us, we have very solid memories of COVID and what that was like. And I will just tell you, sort of just like anyone else who experienced it, having NAFA reopen and getting together and sort of seeing the old gang, seeing the new gang kind of a thing. It was a major turning point for, I think, myself and a lot of professionals, like in the world, in our lives, right? It was, hey, we can get back to having a normal life again, and maybe even better. But, it was such an important, because you guys really, you were one of the, I don't recall exactly, but I'm pretty confident you were one of the first folks to get back in person.
We got back together at INE in the end of 2021. We held an INE in August of 2021, which is, I think, one of the first events. We were in Pittsburgh that year. We were the first event in Pittsburgh and kind of on the East Coast that put together a program. It was, smaller in scale. We had to limit what we could do, but it was still an opportunity to get back together. But then, we've kind of went from there, full tilt to a degree to say, let's get people back out. And if, people are comfortable, let's make sure we get people together and talking. And that's when we started building that regional model to say, how do we make this easier for people to get together? How do we, take out some of the challenges that people had from bureaucratic, administrative areas? And so NAFA kind of took on all of that and built that out. So it was something that's very important to us. We also learned a lot from COVID too. So, another thing we did over the last year is we kind of revamped our online education, because to your point, people love getting together. It's very important to get out and see and as you said, get the gang back together. But we know a lot of people, and a lot of organizations changed the way they're looking at learning too. So we wanted to make sure we could build some of that online education. So we built out, an online Fleet 101. We built out our certificate programs online in a very interactive way. It's no longer just a voice over PowerPoint. It's a true kind of a adult learning, an all-in type of way with checkpoints in the middle. So you have knowledge checks in the middle of taking these courses. And it's something that, we wanted to get people back together, but we also wanted to adapt and evolve to what the industry now wants. So we know more people want to be able to learn, in an online environment. So we built those
in their
out.
PJs.
We invested a lot of money there too. So
right. And it's phenomenal. I mean, obviously I've seen it. We have a bounty here, where we actually give folks bonuses for completing their CAFM, because we just think it's so important that, people have an understanding of the work that fleet professionals are doing. But yeah, I think that's been a major win and improvement, and it continues to improve. What I'm excited to see is you're not, I don't mean to disparage anyone, but prior to your time, it stayed still for a very, very long time, untouched. And now I see that it's something that's constantly being tweaked and improved, and just your educational offerings in general. There's always something else. There's always another seminar or webinar or event to get together to. I mean, it feels like, boy, if you want an education in fleet and you don't feel like you can find one, you're just not paying attention, or please Google NAFA. Then right.
We're unique in some sense, I think, and you mentioned some of the other, and there's a lot of great fleet organizations out there. And I mentioned, like, I'm at FLAGFA now, and they serve the Florida government fleet administrators. We're unique in a lot of senses because NAFA really represents the whole industry. So, a lot of people may or may not know, but we're almost a third of our members of corporate fleet managers, government fleet managers, and suppliers. So we literally do represent the whole industry. We don't have any special niche, of what we do. So we want to make sure we're providing the specific needs that fleet managers have in whatever area they might fall in that spectrum of the whole industry. But we also want to make sure we're providing a broad enough knowledge base that we serve everybody. So the 3,000 members are a wide range of fleet professionals. So that's somewhat unique to NAFA and what we are as an organization.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. Any other big wins or big hits that you want to kind of call out?
Yeah. So I think the one thing that I'm very excited about, we just held so you mentioned our certification program. So over the last for about 6 months or so, we were running what we call a job task analysis. So we actually had a working group of fleet professionals from all over the country get together, look at the knowledge base of what our certification program is built on, and actually then look at their jobs and say, what do you still do? What don't you do? What are you doing that isn't in there? And something we're going to do now on a regular basis every three years or so, just to review that. But then we had that group kind of put together, here's some tweaks and changes that we might have to make to the certification program because things have changed or evolved. There's new technologies. People are doing maintenance different, whatever it might be. And we made those changes. We send out a survey to all of our members saying, here's what this group of fleet professionals suggested. The members had an opportunity to comment on that. And now we put together this job task analysis, which is we're going to go back and look to update our content. So you mentioned, not stay stagnant. We want to make sure that, hey, what was right 3 years ago, especially in today's world, might change or might evolve, or people might not do that anymore, or they might be doing something completely different. So we just have to make sure that we're educating on the latest and greatest. So we're going to keep doing this, what we call job task analysis, on a regular basis to ensure that our content stays up to date and stays relevant to today's fleet professionals.
That's really great. That's great to hear. Oh, what a win. Very exciting for me. As you know, Bill, this is something that you've heard me say and our listeners have heard me say before. I believe in my heart that our industry is the most under-resourced industry in the world, especially in relation to the dependency that the world and society as a whole has on it. You can go out and get a transportation degree, a degree in transit, and many other adjacent fields. There is no fleet management degree that I'm aware of. You guys are literally out there filling that gap. You are making sure that there is a certification program, that there's education. And again, it goes beyond just that CAFM. It's much bigger than that. That's certainly a major piece and a foundation. And so in that regard, I think you and I, as well as the organizations we represent, are very much aligned, where we literally exist to try to help fleet succeed, to try to help support this industry that we're passionate about. Kind of needs it. Maybe we got, I don't know, what maybe we're like those addicted to the underdog or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but. So when people listening kind of hear the excitement in my voice, this is kind of where that's coming from, because it's so good to hear. And like you said, staying on top of it's an indication that, hey, we're putting resources into this. It's serious. We mean it. It's not something we wrote once in 1979 and then we never touched again. It's very powerful, and that's important, because once you get that certification, why do you want to keep coming back? Why do you want to keep going to education? Because there's always more to learn. Right. Things are always changing. So
exactly. Yeah.
I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
You mentioned the underdog. I mean, that's another important, one of the things I think, where NAFA is very proud of is carrying on the 100 Best tradition of the 100 Best Fleet Awards. So something I know Tom Johnson, who was kind of an industry stalwart and created this program, over 20 years ago, to really recognize, in his words, the fleet managers that weren't getting recognized. There were people that didn't get the recognition of what, in a lot of cases, the most important part of any business is running their fleet. So, I mean, nothing happens without a fleet in most businesses, and that's important. So he built that program. We've taken that program and continue to try to grow it and build on that legacy. So that's another part of what we're very proud of what we do here, because to your point on the underdog, it's a good opportunity for professionals that may or may not get the recognition within their organization to show that, look, we're a ranked organization here. Our fleet's one of the top 100 in North America, and we should celebrate that. So that's something else we build on, and we keep building on that program, and then also take the learnings from it now. So beyond the recognition, we want to learn from the 100 best every year. So we build, the 5 key takeaways of what the 100 best fleets are doing this year, and try to build some benchmarks year over year to see what changed, what makes a great fleet today versus what made one 4 years ago. So we're excited about that too. But it's a big part of that sort of that underdog element of recognizing people that may or may not get recognized within their organization.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's great that you do that, by the way. It helps my colleagues on the consulting end, by the way. We're bashing heads, and trust me, your labor rate is not $35 an hour, and you don't want it to be, look, this is the average of the 100 best fleets.
Right.
Now do you believe it? It certainly helps tell the message, and kind of get it across when you're trying to help folks improve. Yeah, that's a super cool piece. And the thing about the underdog too is that, to your point, like, because you're kind of bringing to the forefront, fleet is inherently behind the scenes, right? Like that's the thing about like our industry and our professionals, right? The police officer arrests the criminal, the firefighter puts out the fire, the human services officer helps that person in need. Go on and on and on and on, right? The Department of Transportation builds the streets and puts up the sign, and whatever it may be, the construction, but none of that work can get done in the absence of the work that the fleet team is doing to facilitate their access to the vehicles and equipment they need, and to really enable that work to get done. But we're never at the front of that. We're always sort of behind the scenes. We're always the support group to the internal service, right, on that sort of thing. And then on top of that, I would argue that the overwhelming majority of those organizations, they see fleet as a cost center. Only a few segments in our profession recognize fleet as a profit center. And so it just makes us, kind of always sort of push to the back in so many different, conversations and topics and arenas. So it's a great point you make. It's a really important reason why that 100 best fleets is super important. For a lot of folks, it's literally the highlight of the year. It's just our Super Bowl. It's our Super Bowl, So that's pretty neat stuff. Yeah, I appreciate that. What else you got going for me, man? I'm gonna go. I'm ready to go to new stuff, but you keep hitting me with more stuff. Tell me some more of the other big wins. Yeah,
we continue from the advocacy side of things. I mean, obviously that's extremely important for fleets. So we've kind of expanded out our. Used to be very federal focused on our advocacy, but now obviously in the last few years expanded to more state focus level because of states are, there's clean fleet rules, different things happening on a state to state basis. So we've been doing a lot of advocacy on behalf of the fleets. Again, we're very centered on our positions, but we're looking for common sense legislation and regulation. And that's what we're trying to do. One of the big and our legislative council does a great job with our government affairs committee, does a great job of bringing people together and really educating the regulators, the legislative, local senators, local representatives, state representatives on a federal level too, as well, to just say, here's the reality of what it means to run a fleet. Here's their facilities. Here's the reality of the types of vehicles they need, what they need to do on a daily basis. So as you're putting these things in place, come speak to the fleets first, because it's going to impact, as you just mentioned. I mean, it's going to impact service. It's going to impact public safety. It's going to impact education. It's going to impact things across the board. So let's ensure that we have fleet professionals at the table talking about things before regulation, those type of things move forward. So it's been important to us. It's been a great step. I mean, obviously, we've done a lot in different states, things on the federal level, but and the nice thing about it is our members, love to educate on what they do. So it's an easy story to tell once we get people to know they need to know the story.
Right. That's the key. And I mean, I'm sure there's a whole myriad of topics, but obviously the hot topic that's been in our industry for a few years now is EVs, and I'm sure that's the kind of thing that you're talking about, right? Kind of an eyes wide open approach. This is what we can do. This is what we can't do. This is how much it will cost. This is what's reasonable, realistic, et cetera. And just having that attitude as opposed to carte blanche mandates or regulations that don't even take into consideration necessarily how it's going to impact what fleet professionals need to do and the services that they provide for, essentially, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you were almost forced into that, right? In the sense that, boy, what industry has been hit more with those kinds of things in the last 5 years or so than us?
Yeah, it has been. I mean, it's been good for us in the sense that it gave us some new opportunities to kind of engage. But it's it's something. Yeah, like you said, our members were coming to us and saying, "Hey, we need help," and so we've kind of dug in and expanded our advocacy efforts, on state levels and down to municipalities and such as needed. So that's something we've really tried to listen to our members and say, this is happening here, and a lot of times, we don't even hear about it until a member kind of raises their hand. So we encourage members like, hey, this is, if you start hearing talk, let us know, because we need to get out in front of things. But we're working, right now, I think in nearly 20 states we have some type of interaction with legislators and fleet professionals in those states, trying to advise them on next steps and whatever their plans may be.
And that's great. And I'll tell you what, that's I know it's not why you said it, but I'll use it as an opportunity to make a plug here. If you're a young or a new or transitioning fleet professional and you're not part of an association, certainly I can advocate for NAFA. I would argue be part of something, like you said, be part of FLAGFA, whatever it may be. But that's the reason right there to join NAFA, right? Because you're going to need help. There will be people with experience or with resources to help you. And, give yourself that opportunity to reach out. And you guys do all kinds. I mean, between the meetings, the group emails and the chats and the message boards. And I mean, there are a million ways to seek help. There are a million ways to get help. And my experience of, NAFA members is people are ready to jump to help you. So if you're a fleet manager or you're a young professional, honestly, get involved. It's the best thing you can do. We talk about it a lot when we speak, at various shows. Steve and Scott Root and I, or Steve Saltzgiver, were at NTEA a couple of weeks back. And, it was a very common question. There's a lot of new fleet managers there, a lot of young companies and those sorts of things. And, the question we get every year, we've been doing it since 2017. And every year, well, what do you recommend to new fleet managers? And the very first thing we say is get involved. There's tons of resources. Go participate in NAFA. Keep going to NTEA. If you're in the States, go to NASIF. If you're in some of these regional areas that have big associations, whatever it may be. But get involved and get help. And I'm sure you would second that thought.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's what you mentioned our community, like our online communities, our discussion boards. I've mentioned I come from different industries. This industry is far more collaborative in the sense that our members are more than willing to share. I mean, they're happy to say, here's how we did it, to brainstorm ideas. It's it's interesting. You always say, what's the value of membership? But and this is going to sound somewhat cliched, but one of the biggest values of our membership is actually our members, because they have so much knowledge, so much willingness to share. So much willingness to mentor and help people learn. So I mean, it's been fantastic, and everything I'm talking about here, all is the result of member feedback, member volunteerism, members working together to help build these programs. I mean, our staff is here to just kind of move the pieces around and make sure the things get done. But it all comes from the members' expertise, the members' professionals' background, their passion, their knowledge is really what's building all of this. So everything from what we need to do from an advocacy side of things to what we need to build in our certification education programs to our events, it's all coming from the members. So I mean, we have 3,200 plus professionals out there, all willing to help teach or train people who are interested in this industry, who want to learn more about it. So I mean, definitely get involved, because the value is really, our programs are great, but the value really is getting to know your fellow members. That's really where you get the most bang for your buck.
Sure.
Because no one goes to school for fleet management, chances are you were never formally trained on how to successfully lead a fleet. That's where the Fleet Success Playbook comes in. The Fleet Success Playbook is your guide to building a safe, reliable, and efficient fleet that provides exceptional service. Learn all about the 4 pillars of fleet success: stakeholder satisfaction, intentional culture, resource efficiency, and risk management. Get nearly 100 years of combined advice on common challenges, practical solutions, actionable tips, and real examples from fleet industry experts who have been there and done that. Visit www.fleetsuccessplaybook.com to request your free copy today.
So what's on your mind these days, Bill? What are some of the things that you're kind of figuring out how to tackle, or maybe just started tackling, or anticipating a need? You know, what's the hot topic, or what's the, you know, whatever it may be, kind of what are you seeing as you're looking out on the road ahead of you there?
Yeah, so I think we're continuing to work, look at collaboration with other organizations. Like I said, NAFA is, and this sounded, not to sound in a weird way, but kind of the Big Ten, as we're over all the different fleet industry. But there's a lot of regional groups. There's a lot of specialized kind of fleet groups out there. How do we bring kind of everybody together? That's something we're looking at. How do we bring everybody together and ensure we all are moving in the right direction, moving in the same direction to really help the fleet industry. Not around one is better than the other, but how do we best collaborate with all these different groups? So we've been working with a lot of groups in that sense. We've been working with ASE on to help get closer with them on technician training and some groups there, because we know obviously technician shortage, technician training, succession planning for your technicians are all major challenges for our fleet professionals. So we're trying to get more involved with ASE and also some local technical trade schools around the country, and engage them with our members to not only help them solve the problem of technician shortages and technician training, but also to start putting in the minds of a lot of these technicians that there is a career path here that goes beyond technicians, that you can move into a fleet professional role. So, I mean, for NAFA, there's, selfishly, there's a good opportunity there to say the more of these technician groups we get involved, the more opportunities are for future members, because they can easily grow into a fleet professional. So those are some of the big things we're trying to do is, how do we get this outreach, and how do we ensure we're all collaborating, in a world where, you read different things about how divided and such are. I think like we can really work together to bring the fleet industry together and say, hey, there's a lot of challenges. We all need to work in this to move things in the same direction. And that's what we're trying to do from not only the other fleet industries, but also some of the technician groups. We've also been working with groups that their main goal and mission is not necessarily on fleet specific challenges, but as we talked about before, their members all rely heavily on fleet. So we're working with a couple apparel and uniform delivery associations, bottled water associations, there's different landscaping associations that their focus is on how to be a better landscaper, those types of things, but yet they rely on a fleet to make sure they can do that. So we're trying to work with those types of groups as well to say, hey, you don't have to be an expert in fleet. We have that. We have the people that can help you in that. But you want to make sure that your members, to do what they need to do, are taking care of their fleet, that they're running an efficient, a safe, and a sustainable fleet. So that's really what our outreach is all about.
Ah, that's pretty neat. Yeah, and you'll even help. I mean, you run the gambit. You'll do, these kind of national, large, sort of overarching projects. But if you get a call from a local fleet professional, they say, hey, we're having trouble finding a mechanic, you and the members, you'll help people even at the very one-on-one level when it's necessary, when that's what it's called for, right?
Yeah, we've been working with local community college groups that are trying to put together technician training. We've been trying to we're working with Northern Virginia right now to put together a local a fleet advisory group for them, of our members. Say, hey, what do we need to do to train our technicians? And so we're happy to say, hey, what do you need? We have 3,000 people that are willing to help. What do you need them to do? We'll put together a group that helps look at next steps, and we're very much on let's take that first step, and then we'll figure out the next step. But let's just make sure we take a first step. You mentioned earlier, in today's fleet world, we can't really wait and see and look for perfect. We gotta look for progress. So that's what we're trying to do.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and this is a big issue, right? Like, and we've known about it. I think it was don't hold me to this. It could have been a different firm, but I think it was Oliver Wyman did a study in 18, and they predicted that in 24 there would be more technician positions than technicians. Turns out COVID accelerated that, and that became true, I think, in 2022. And so a lot of what we're talking about here is essentially trying to address that, right? We're seeing it all over the country. I mean, literally all over the country. Folks can't retire, or they try to retire, they bring it back part-time, positions that are open forever. I haven't talked to a fleet manager in at least 2 years that doesn't have an open position or hasn't had an open position kind of long-term. And we know it's bigger than us, right? It's challenges around the skilled trades in general. And so you're seeing even broader organizations, right? I think Mike Rowe has an organization trying to help, fill that skilled trade gap. And so it's really interesting. And mechanics obviously is near and dear to my heart, technicians because of fleet, but also because some of the data I've looked at recently has me scratching my head, or has me, I don't know the right phrase here, Bill, but I think the work that technicians do is not only important, but it's difficult. It's not easy being a great tech. And yet, right now, frankly, I from what I can tell, pay lags relative to the other skilled trades. And so I don't know exactly the solution there, but I know that that's kind of also on your mind a little bit. And how do we help with that? How do we solve that? I know it's not all about pay. It's not. It really isn't. We talk here all the time about culture and the importance of that. And you mentioned earlier, super important is having that upward movement, that opportunity for a career path. Especially now as we're seeing some signs of light, of hope with the Gen Zs and the younger folks. So I think that's great. And yet at the same time, boy, if I could, wave a magic wand or play God for a day or whatever, I would certainly try to do something around that. I think the work our folks do is always been extremely complex and only growing in complexity. And again, the tolerance for being bad at it is so low because you're talking about people's lives, right? So I don't know. You have any thoughts on that?
No, yeah, we've been trying to, like I said, we've created a technician track at INE. So we have our INE coming up, for this year, and we created a technician track trying to encourage, the fleet professionals to bring their technicians to that, and with some specific learning for them at INE, but then also give them the broader picture of what fleet is, so they can go to technician training specifically designed for them, but then go to some other training that shows them that upward trajectory, like you mentioned in your career. We created it as part of the 100 Best Fleet program. We created a Technician of the Year. So and that's been growing. This will be year 3 for that. We've had more and more submissions to that because it's, money's important, but it's also around recognition. So if a technician knows that their organization put them forward to be nominated for Technician of the Year, that's important for them. They understand, like, hey, I'm getting noticed. I'm doing a good job. So we've been building some programs like that too, to recognize technicians from the fleet professionals, to say, I want to recognize you for the work you're doing. So we're trying to build more of that. And I think, and then some of these other potentially mentorship programs we're looking at building through some of the technical schools and trade schools, I think, is something else that'll be really valuable down the road for them. We've been also talking to, some groups on veterans as well. So, transitioning veterans, to say, is there opportunities for NAFA to get involved to help train those individuals that are coming back in the workforce, either in the technician side of things, or, that came from logistics in the fleet professionals. So those are some other areas we're trying to build on to help, help fill the workforce that we know is needed, but also just bring more people into the industry.
Yeah, sure. We were talking at dinner a couple nights ago, and with some colleagues, and one of the things that dawned on me is I really encourage technicians out there, if you're listening to this, if you're friends or family with one, go get a job in fleet. No disrespect or harm to my friends in the OEM world. It's a very important work that they do, and they need mechanics just as bad as the rest of us do. I hear that. But the thing about fleet is you just get this broad experience on such a variety of equipment, generally speaking, or even if you're in a vocational fleet, it's usually complex equipment. It's a lot more than, frankly, changing an oil change for a sedan. And I just think that if you really are career oriented and you're trying to consider upward movement and other future opportunities, having that diverse range of experience of working on different kinds of equipment, solving different kinds of problems, I think is in your long run best interest. Even if it means right now, maybe taking a dollar an hour less kind of a thing. I just think there's so much value, and in the long run is going to really help you with that upward movement piece. And that's another piece you do that kind of goes on is this coaching element, right? Like helping people with their careers and so forth. It used to be just a message board. Here are the open positions. But if people come to you and say, hey, what do I do? How do I advance my career? What do you recommend? You'll put them in touch with a mentor. You'll give them some advice. You'll do various things. I mean, that's just, really, really neat stuff. I know I'm kind of harping on it here, but, I think so many people have had the experience that I had when I was entering fleet. And that's why I'm passionate about it, which is you don't even know the world is out there, right? Like you live in this little bubble. I recall going from having no clue that there was even a fleet management industry, forget a NAFA or this or that. And, sort of overnight just being exposed to it. I went and talked to Ron Gittleman up at Yale and, said, hey, you guys have been managing vehicles for a while. What's going on? He said, the first thing you got to do is join NAFA. And I went, NAFA? What's NAFA? Right? And there's this whole world out there. And so, for us, we kind of take it for granted because we live in it. But there are people who may be going to come across this, are going to hear this, and they haven't been exposed to that. So I'm going to pause a second here. Tell us, when is the I&E? Tell us the website here, both for NAFA as a whole, and, give us some information if folks are interested in kind of joining and getting, and in general, getting involved, et cetera, et cetera. Where should they go? What should they do? What do you recommend, et cetera? Yeah.
So our NAFA I&E this year is you can go to nafainstitute.org. That's the I&E's website. We are going to be in Long Beach this year, Long Beach, California this year, the 28th through the 30th of April. We have some pre-cons happening on that week as well. It is a great opportunity to get together. We have a great expo hall to take a look at all the suppliers that are there. We announce our 100 best winners. We have multiple tracks from emerging technologies to leadership to, as I mentioned, technicians to operations to EVs, sustainability. So we have sessions on pretty much that run the gamut of everything that people want to know about. They're all peer provided and peer reviewed. That's important to us. So these are things that, people submit ideas to speak at this conference, and we have a whole group of volunteers that look at those. They rate those based off of, how they feel the industry needs those, and we put together the top ones into the session. So it's going to be a great couple of days in Long Beach. We're very excited about that. Every year we get, over 2,000 people at that event. So excited for Long Beach this year. And we're also going to announce the 100 best there. So it's another opportunity to come out and see who the 100 best will be. So that'll be announced this year. So that's at nafainstitute.org if you want to go there. If you just want to find out more about NAFA, you just go to nafa.org. Look at all the programs we have. If you're not a member, highly encourage you to join. But certainly see what we're all about. You can also, look at the calendar, see what's happening in your area, because as I mentioned, we have the regional and local networking groups. So we have, almost 100 different programs happening over the course of this year. So there should be one in your area, I'm hoping, that you can get to. If you just want to try to reach out and dip your toe into what NAFA is all about, definitely do that. And as you mentioned, definitely, if you have ideas or you want to find something and you say, I don't want to go all in with CFM, or I don't want to, I don't, just reach out. We can find a way to get you involved on a starting level. We can introduce you to members in your area. We can, ensure you talk to people that if you have a specific problem, we'll know somebody that can probably find an answer for you. So definitely contact us, reach out. My information's on the site. I'm happy to take people's calls and talk to them out. We have a lot of even suppliers that call and say, what do I need to do to get involved in the fleet industry? Happy to have those conversations and just say, here's some general thoughts. But definitely go to nafa.org and experience what's there and see if it makes sense for you.
So, Bill, with that, I wanted to kind of ask you one more question here. You are in an interesting position that you, as we've kind of been talking about, you get feedback from everywhere, from literally thousands of folks. You got a team of folks collecting that feedback, looking at it, every segment, every corner of the fleet management industry. What are some things that, kind of like looking out into the future that you see that maybe are going to be future trends or future issues to solve, or, what's coming around the corner? Maybe some of it is more of the same, maybe not. Maybe some of it we don't see. Where's your mind go, and what problems are you trying to help the industry solve?
Sure. So I think we hit on a little bit of, obviously, the issue of trained employees and that we're going to need. So we're going to need to fill that gap. So obviously we talked a lot about that. I think that's important. But I think, the technology that's changing so fast. I mean, from AI to just, vehicle types and such is going to be a big challenge. I think there's a lot of unknown now from the regulatory environment, which I think is somewhat of a challenge as fleets, need to start looking at infrastructure and investments and things. And that's, one area that I think NAFA needs to hopefully get to the point where we can help with is kind of ensure that there is a direction from a regulatory kind of legislative side of things. But then, I think the opportunities are great from, and another thing, NAFA is launching and getting more involved in this year is a safety certificate program. So I think, a lot of the technology is going to, and one of the, things that we talk about is how do we make fleets safer? I think there's a lot of opportunities with a lot of the new technologies that's going to make fleets a lot safer. And in the long term, from a fleet manager role, I think, one of the challenges is as things adapt and change and evolve so quickly, is how do you ensure the foundation of all this, your fleet policies, how do you keep them up to date to ensure that they are, we talked about keeping our own education up to date from an NAFA perspective, but in your own fleet, how do you keep your policies and your kind of your baseline of how you manage everything up to date as things are changing on a regular basis? So that's something that we're hearing a lot of too. How do we do this? How do we make sure we're meeting the technology innovation with the operational side of things? So that's I think something that NAFA is going to play a big role in. Obviously there's a lot, and we represent a lot of different suppliers and different solutions and such. So where everything shakes out is going to be hard to say, but I think it's exciting times for everybody for sure. And I think we're excited to keep evolving what we can train people on and ensure that workforce is there to provide the best decisions on whatever those new technologies, the new vehicle types, the new regulations bring. So that's really where I look at NAFA playing in that long-term role and challenge.
Sure. I think that's probably among the safest bets if we were betting men, right? When you look at sort of just the curve of technology change and the influence that it's had on society as a whole, but certainly our industry. We can go, EVs is the easy one, man. Just, the millions of lines of code in these vehicles. How many vehicles on the road today don't even have a drive shaft anymore? They're basically playing a video game. It's like a Bluetooth signal or something going, just mind blowing, And, we're old enough. I remember very clearly when you talk about safety and technology and together. I remember when airbags came out, and it was like, wow, airbags. And they were in BMWs and Mercedes and Cadillac, and it was only for the driver. And now it's like the lowest trim of the cheapest model that you can buy has side impact airbags and knee protection airbags. And you can't name it. The car stops for you, it starts for you, it doesn't let you turn left, it doesn't turn you right. So if there's one sure bet, it's that technology will continue to be a major influence on the challenges and perhaps in many cases the opportunities that our industry is facing. I think that's a pretty fair one. All right, so I lied to you. I'm going to ask you one more question. That last one was supposed to be the one more. I lied. Forgive me. I'm going to actually ask you a couple of quick ones. Ready? First one is, if you were brand new fleet manager, just entered the industry, says, "Hey, Bill, meet fleet manager newbie. Bill, give me some advice. What would you recommend to me? What's the first couple of things that come to your mind? What would you say to this new fleet manager?"
So I'd probably, the first one, I'd go back to what Ron Gittleman told you, is join NAFA, obviously. that'd be the first one. I think it's building that, it's building that the cohort of experts right away, whatever you need of peers that can be your experts. A lot of, and we hear this from our members all the time. You get put on an island pretty quick in your own organization. So make sure you build some bridges to other islands that are good islands for you to get to. So definitely, build those cohort of peers together and say, these are people that I can go to right away, because you're gonna, you're brand new, and on day 2 you're gonna get a question that no one else in the organization is going to be able to answer probably, and they're going to expect you to answer it. So you have to figure out how to get there, how to get that answer. And I think it's finding those experts that are willing to, might not have the answer, but at least help you talk through it.
That's phenomenal advice and very well said. Okay, here's my other couple quick rapid fire ones. Ready? Favorite movie of all time?
Probably be Field of Dreams or The Godfather. Those are
two classics.
Two very different.
Very disparate, but classic. Okay, all right. Do you eat cereal?
I do. Yes.
What's your favorite cereal?
So I eat a lot of kind of granola things, and I guess do I count oatmeal as cereal? I eat oatmeal.
Yes.
Okay. I eat oatmeal.
Yes. Oatmeal. All right. Oatmeal and granola. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Do you listen to music?
I do. Yeah.
Favorite band or group or performing artists of all time?
So I'm probably going to say Billy Joel or Harry Chapin, the less known one. But Harry Chapin and Billy Joel are probably two.
Very cool. Pulling it out. All right, Bill, this was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to do this with me. It's I've been wanting to get you on. We've been talking about it now for at least 5 months, maybe more than that, 6 months. So I genuinely appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. It means a lot. I know Josh feels the same way. He couldn't be here today. I hope you will come on again.
Absolutely. This was fun.
If he's nice to us, maybe we'll let David on too. Okay. I don't know. We'll see. But no, I would love to have you guys on. I really appreciate it. And I hope you had a good time.
This is a great time. Yeah, this is great. So yeah, I'd love to do it again. So, and thank you for what you guys do. We really appreciate it. On behalf of the fleet industry, you provided a great service. So appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. That means a lot. That means a lot, especially from you. So, all right, with that, have a wonderful day, and we'll say goodbye to everyone online. Take care, folks. Hope you have a good one.
We hope you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on LinkedIn or leave a review. Want to learn more about our fleet management software, Fleet 360? Check us out at rtafleet.com. If you want to learn more about having your fleet evaluated by our consulting team, go to fleetconsulting.com.